Hey guys, have a great night tonight. We're traveling back to a time before cities, before writing, before anyone ever thought to say I do. Imagine the world tens of thousands of years ago, a silent wilderness broken only by the crackle of fire and the low hum of insects under a vast, starlit sky. Men and women sit close together, wrapped in fur and smoke eyes, reflecting the glow of burning wood. There are no laws yet, no wedding rings, and certainly no relationship status. Just survival hunger, warmth, and something even more dangerous desire. If you lived back then, you might have had to share your lover with the entire tribe. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me how you're feeling tonight. Is your mind calm or racing? What are you worried about as you drift towards sleep? Go ahead, share it below. It's a small ritual that helps you let go of the day. Take a slow, deep breath, settle into your favorite spot, and let the gentle rhythm of this story carry you far from today's worries. The campfire flickers brighter, and around it, the tribe begins to unwind after the hunt. The smell of roasted meat mixes with wet soil and crushed herbs. Children giggle near the warmth, while elders hum low tunes that sound like prayers to forgotten gods. Yet within the circle, glances linger a little too long. A hunter named Kor, broad-shouldered and proud, looks across the flames at Sira, whose laughter seems to catch the light. She isn't his mate. She's promised to another Mantan, a quiet stone carver with sharp eyes and slower hands. The warmth of the fire masks a rising tension that has nothing to do with the cold. Prehistoric people lived in small, tight-knit groups, usually fewer than 30 individuals. Bonds were necessary for survival, but love was rarely private. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherers like the Hadza or the San Note, that relationships often formed and faded fluidly. Marriage, as we think of it, didn't exist. Instead, pair bonds were guided by emotion availability and the ever-practical need to raise offspring together. Still, jealousy, that uniquely human ache, may have burned even then. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric humans practiced monogamy or lived in complete sexual freedom. But one thing seems certain: even in a world without laws, hearts still broke. Kor laughs too loudly at Sira's story, and Tarn's gaze hardens. The other hunters notice but say nothing. The tribe knows better than to interfere in the subtle games of attraction that play out beneath the stars. After all, a fight could risk unity, and unity is life itself. A split tribe means empty bellies, unguarded children, and no one to watch for predators. As the flames crackle, a faint wind carries the scent of rain. The flickering light casts shadows on faces that might have looked much like ours. Their brows are heavy, their muscles built from constant work, but their eyes tell stories of longing, rivalry, and affection that haven't changed in 50,000 years. Scientists today can actually glimpse the remnants of those emotions in fossils and DNA. A quirky finding from paleogenetic studies shows that Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens often interbred not just once, but many times over thousands of years. Some modern humans still carry up to 2% of Neanderthal DNA, meaning our distant ancestors weren't exactly loyal to one species, let alone one partner. It's an odd thought. Every flirtatious glance across that ancient fire contributed in its own messy way to who we are now. The night deepens, and Sira rises to add another log to the fire. The sparks leap upward like tiny spirits, illuminating her face for just a second, long enough for Kor's heart to quicken. Maybe it's just instinct. Maybe it's something more. She catches his glance and looks away, half smiling. Tan pretends not to see, but the stone in his hand cracks as he grips it tighter. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the firelight, wolves howl. The sound rolls through the trees like a warning, a reminder that danger waits outside the circle. And yet the greatest danger tonight isn't the wolf. It's what's happening right here among them. Human connection has always been both a comfort and a curse. Desire might lead to warmth on a cold night, or to rage that tears a group apart. The balance between need and loyalty, love and survival began long before history could record it. A spark leaps from the fire and lands in the dirt, glowing briefly before fading into ash. The tribe shifts closer together. Kor and Sira don't speak again that night, but every eye around the fire feels the invisible ripple between them. And for the first time, Tan's heart carries a quiet fear, the same fear that has haunted humanity ever since someone first whispered mine. The flames sink lower. The night grows heavier. But within the glow of that prehistoric fire, something unmistakably human flickers to life. Jealousy, love, and the fragile promise of fidelity. Morning light creeps through the smoke-blackened branches, painting the camp in silver mist. Dew clings to the firs where the tribe slept, and the low murmur of waking life stirs in the valley. The hunters stretch their arms, women stoke the embers, and children chase each other barefoot over cold earth. The world feels calm, but beneath that peace lies something ancient and restless, the stirring of emotion that no tool or fire can control. In this raw dawn of humanity, there is no word for affair, no language for betrayal. The tribe simply knows what feels right and what feels wrong. Bonds form as naturally as breathing. A man and a woman might share a shelter for months, a season, or a lifetime, or until hunger, migration, or death separates them. Love is not defined by ceremony, but by routine, the shared meal, the sleeping beside one another, the protection offered in storms. And yet, even in that simplicity, hearts wander. Our species, Homo sapiens, evolved complex emotions as a survival strategy. Pair bonding helped ensure that children who needed years of care survived long enough to pass on their parents' genes. But attachment, like all instincts, came with side effects: jealousy, possessiveness, longing for novelty. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric humans were mostly monogamous or whether free partnerships were the norm. Some point to modern forager tribes such as the Moswo of China or the Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea as echoes of that ancient openness, relationships formed by affection, not ownership. Others argue that even early humans felt the sting of exclusivity the moment love entered the heart. Kor sharpens his spear beside the river, his reflection rippling across the surface. He's thinking of Sira again. It isn't lust alone that draws him. It's her laughter, her warmth, the way she looks at the horizon, as if she's listening to something beyond the mountains. But she belongs to Tan. Belongs, what a strange word, in a time before property existed. The tribe doesn't own mates, yet there's an unspoken boundary everyone respects. To cross it is to risk the delicate web of trust that holds them together. The tribe's leader, an old woman named Ralna, senses the tension. She has seen this pattern before, the quiet glances, the subtle rivalry. Once long ago, two men in the group fought over a woman during the dry season. Both were wounded, and when the rains came, no one could hunt properly. The tribe nearly starved. Ralna knows that desire can be more dangerous than any saber-toothed cat. Love before marriage existed was both innocent and wild. There were no rules carved into stone, no promises made before gods. Only the rhythm of nature dictated what was allowed. A woman might move between partners, finding safety or affection where it suited her. A man might wander from camp to camp, fathering children whose names he'd never hear. Yet curiously, these unions were often cooperative, rather than chaotic. The tribe shared food, shelter, and the raising of children. Survival required unity above all else. A quirky finding by archaeologists studying ancient burial sites shows that some graves contain men and women buried side by side, sometimes with intertwined hands. Yet in nearby layers, another skeleton might carry jewelry or ornaments that suggest shifting alliances. It's as if love stories were constantly rewritten in the soil, one season's partner replaced by another. Kor looks up from his reflection and sees Sira kneeling by the water's edge, rinsing hides. Her fingers red from the coal stream work rhythmically. Their eyes meet. He wants to speak, to say something that transcends this wordless tension. Instead, he only nods. She nods back. The silence between them is thicker than speech. Behind them, Tarn approaches his shadow long in the morning light. His eyes narrow, not in anger, but confusion. Somewhere deep in him, an ancient instinct whispers that his world might change. He doesn't know why, but he feels it, the same unease that every human from the first campfire to the modern city has felt when love begins to wander. Love before marriage was a force of nature, not a moral question. To prehistoric people, desire wasn't sin, it was life. Yet even without guilt, emotions tangled. A jealous glance could spark conflict, a flirtatious laugh could fracture trust. And through it all, humanity learned to balance heart and survival. Kor finally turns away from the water, gripping his spear a little tighter. The hunt will begin soon, and the forest will swallow his thoughts for a while. But he knows as surely as he knows the path of the deer that something between him and Sira has changed. High above, vultures circle lazily in the brightening sky, waiting for whatever the day will bring. The tribe doesn't know it, but in their quiet struggles, their loves, their rivalries, their longing glances, they are writing the first chapters of what will one day become the story of human relationships. The morning hums with insects. Children laugh again. The danger passes for now. But deep inside the human heart, a question remains. What is love without ownership? What is loyalty without law? Those questions have followed us since the first sunrise after the first forbidden glance. By midday, the sun burns high above the savannah, and the tribe moves across open plains in search of berries and tubers. The air shimmers with heat, carrying the scent of grass and dust. Insects buzz lazily, and the sound of stone tools clinking drifts over the hills. For a people without written words, everything is said through rhythm. The pace of footsteps, the glances shared, the silences held too long. The small band has survived together for seasons beyond counting. Each person knows the other's scent habits and secrets. Within this closeness, attraction is inevitable and complicated. Sira walks with the other gatherers, a basket of woven reeds on her back. Kor and the hunting party trail behind, their spears glinting in the light. Tarn remains close to her side, but there's distance in his eyes, as if he's already a little apart from her. In this world, relationships aren't defined by law, but by necessity. The tribe functions like a single organism. To survive, food must be shared, injuries tended, and emotions carefully balanced. Anthropologists studying early human social structures suggest that prehistoric tribes likely practiced a system of fluid relationships, partnerships that shifted with time, circumstance, and availability. It wasn't so much cheating as adaptation. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric people viewed fidelity as a moral virtue or simply as a temporary agreement based on survival needs. The tribal web of desire wasn't driven by romance in the modern sense. It was about connection, physical, emotional, practical. If a woman's partner was injured or killed, another man might step in to help raise her children. if a man's mate could not bear offspring, he might form new bonds elsewhere. To our modern minds, this might sound like disloyalty, but in the harsh logic of prehistory, it was simply life continuing itself. Still, even in this open flow, there was room for pain. Some members formed deeper attachments than others. Jealousy, possessiveness. Longing, these weren't cultural inventions. They were instincts coded in the human brain long before civilization. Even chimpanzees and bonobos, our closest relatives, show such emotions, dominant struggles over mates, affection, and alliance building. It's likely that our ancestors felt the same electric mix of affection and competition. Kor pauses on a ridge overlooking the plain, scanning for movement. A herd of antelope grazes in the distance, their sleek shapes glimmering in the light. His mind should be on the hunt, but instead it drifts back to Sierra's laughter that morning. He remembers the way the sunlight caught her hair and how her eyes darted away when Tarn appeared. That look, the smallest flicker of mutual awareness, was enough to rewrite the pattern of his day. Down below, Sierra bends to pick wild roots. Her hands are steady, but her heart beats faster when she feels Kor's gaze even from afar. It's not love as we know it. There's no word for love here, only an ache, a gravity pulling one body toward another. In the shade of an acacia tree, the elder Ralna sits with two younger women shaping clay figurines. One figure, broad-shouldered and tall, resembles Kor. Another, smaller and curved, looks faintly like Sierra. The women giggle as Ralna mutters something teasing. These figurines, sometimes left near hearths or springs, may have served as fertility charms or playful gossip made tangible. Archaeologists have found similar carvings, tiny Venus statues and hunter idols across prehistoric sites. Some scholars think they represented fertility and abundance. Others believe they were symbols of affection, even flirtation. It's oddly comforting to imagine that gossip, flirtation, and humor have existed as long as we have. By afternoon, the tribe stops at a grove to rest. Children nap in the shade, while adults chew roots or mend tools. Kor sits near the edge, shaping a new spear tip. Tarn joins him, silent at first, then speaking in a tone that's half friendly, half probing. "You hunt well," Tarn says. Kor nods. "The prey's been moving east. We'll follow tomorrow." There's a pause heavy enough to bend the air. Tarn's next words come slower. "You look often toward the gatherers." Kor keeps his gaze on the spearhead. "We all look. We all see." Tarn's jaw tightens, but he says nothing more. The conversation ends with a crack of flint sharper than necessary. This is how tension grows in a tribe, quietly, invisibly, like roots beneath dry soil. Ralna senses it again. She remembers another group that fell apart years ago because of such friction. Two women fought over the same man. The conflict split families and left half the tribe wandering north. Desire could unite, but it could just as easily destroy. As the day fades, shadows stretch across the grasslands. The hunters gather around the fire again. Sierra sits beside Tarn, her hands clasped in her lap. Kor sits opposite, pretending not to watch her. But the fire, as always, reveals what darkness tries to hide. Their eyes meet again, a silent confession neither can speak. In the background, laughter rises, a young couple teasing each other over roasted roots. Life goes on. Desire, like the wind, never stops moving through the camp. Some might say this is how nature intended it, to keep hearts restless, ensuring that genes, ideas, and emotions always mix. The flames crackle, the night hums with life, and above them, stars burn cold and ancient, watching, as they always have, silent witnesses to humanity's first complicated love triangle The next morning dawns grey and windswept with heavy clouds gathering over the plains. The air tastes like rain, and the tribe's mood feels equally charged, a quiet, uneasy rhythm beneath their movements. The hunters prepare for a long expedition toward the wooded foothills, where herds often pass during the wet season. The women gather their baskets, murmuring softly to the children, while the elders wrap dried meat in animal hide. The smell of smoke and ash clings to everything. Kor joins the other hunters, his spear newly polished, his mind sharp but restless. Sira stays near the camp to prepare foraging tools. Tarn moves between them, close enough to both belonging fully to neither. The shift in their triangle is subtle, like wind moving through tall grass, invisible yet felt. As they set off, the tribe divides hunters toward the hills, gatherers toward the riverbanks. Each path reflects the delicate structure of their world. Prehistoric society wasn't built on laws or leaders, but on roles that balanced one another. Hunters provided meat, gatherers provided stability. Both were equally vital. When these systems worked, the tribe thrived. When they faltered, often because of personal conflict, they fractured. This is what happens when monogamy meets chaos, when instinct collides with attachment, and something as wild as love begins to ask for permanence. Kor leads part of the hunting group, his feet sinking into wet grass. The earth is soft from an earlier drizzle, and the air smells of damp fur and distant rain. The other hunters follow silently, communicating through small gestures. Among them is a young man named Elon, quick-witted and curious. "You look troubled," Elon says quietly as they climb a ridge. "Your eyes see more than deer tracks." Kor smirks. "I see the same things as you." Maybe, Elon replies, but not for the same reasons. In that small, knowing exchange, something ancient flickers, the first stirrings of empathy and understanding among men about matters of the heart. Even before language matured, humans shared the ability to read emotion in a glance or tone. It's one of our oldest survival traits, and ironically, one of the most painful. Back at the camp, Sira and the other women dig for roots, their hands caked in mud. The rhythm of the task soothes her, but her mind drifts. She recalls Kor's eyes last night, how the firelight made them seem alive, dangerous, almost inviting. Tarn, meanwhile, works nearby, splitting branches for the cooking fire. He senses her distance, though he can't name it. His movements grow harsher, louder. Sira flinches once when he throws a stick too hard, and he looks away ashamed. In that moment, what began as a quiet attraction now ripples through the entire camp. It's no longer about two people. It's about the energy that tension creates in a community that depends on balance. Anthropologists studying emotional contagion in early societies believe that feelings, whether love, fear, or jealousy, spread rapidly through small groups. It's how humans learn to read each other, anticipate danger, or share empathy. But in this fragile web, even affection can become a threat. When the hunters return at dusk, their arrival breaks the silence. They carry a gazelle slung between two spears, their faces tired but triumphant. Sira helps prepare the meat, while Tarn sharpens tools beside the fire. Kor sits close enough to feel her presence, far enough to pretend otherwise. The rain begins softly pattering against the hides that cover their shelters. As the tribe eats, conversation flows in low murmurs. Someone jokes about the old times when two rival tribes traded partners to strengthen alliances. It was an ancient custom long before this group settled here, a practical arrangement to keep bloodlines healthy. Rana chuckles and adds, "Better to share love than to lose it to hunger." The younger ones laugh, but Tarn doesn't. His jaw tightens. Kor, pretending to laugh along, stares into the fire. The moment feels strange, almost timeless, the birth of moral complexity. It's the moment when desire starts to challenge survival, when the heart begins to question what the body accepts. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric humans truly formed exclusive pair bonds, or whether those came later with agriculture and ownership. But emotional fidelity, that instinct to claim one's place beside another, may have already existed here under these same smoky skies. As thunder rumbles in the distance, Tarn stands and leaves the fire. Sira watches him go, guilt washing through her. She glances toward Kor, but he doesn't meet her eyes. The sound of rain fills the silence between them, an ancient rhythm of cleansing and regret. That night dreams ripple through the camp, like a second rain. In one shelter, Tarn dreams of chasing something he can never quite catch, a shadow that always slips away. In another, Kor dreams of firelight on Sira's face, her laughter melting into the wind. And somewhere outside, under the dark trees, Ralna dreams of wolves circling, patient, waiting for weakness. The human heart, it seems, was already too big for its world. Even before temples, vows, or poetry love had begun its endless dance with chaos. Morning fog drifts low over the valleys, soft and white like the breath of sleeping giants. The tribe awakens slowly beneath dripping leaves and the smell of wet earth. The fire smoulders, its smoke curling lazily through the damp air. Birds call faintly from the treetops, and somewhere beyond the ridge, a river murmurs through the stones. It is a calm scene, the kind that looks peaceful until you notice the small, uneasy glances between people who have begun to think too much. Tarn rises early, sharpening flint blades with short, impatient strokes. Sira moves quietly around him, collecting dried bark for kindling. She doesn't speak, but her movements feel different too, careful, too silent. Kor watches from the edge of camp, his eyes shadowed. The rest of the tribe notices, but says nothing. Emotional storms are like the weather. Everyone feels them, and no one can stop them. The day's task is to check nearby caves for shelter before the next migration. The air grows cooler each day, a signal that the seasons are shifting. A small group, including Sira, Tarn, and Kor, sets out toward the cliffs. Their path winds through tall ferns and slick stones, the air heavy with mist. They pass ancient rock walls painted with red ochre handprint spirals and animal figures. One shape stands out, two human forms standing close, surrounded by lines that look like flames or rays. Sira pauses, running her fingers across the ancient symbol. "What do you think it means?" she asks softly. Ralna, walking behind them, smiles. "Maybe love," she says, "or maybe warning." Cave art and hidden messages, these were the first whispers of storytelling. Archaeologists often debate the meaning of prehistoric paintings. Were they magic charms for hunting success or early attempts to record life and longing? So far, scholars remain divided on whether some of these drawings could represent human relationships, courtship, fertility, even jealousy. A few researchers believe that recurring pairs of figures found in cave art might have symbolized partnerships, while others think they were spirits or ancestors. But in the quiet dark of those caves, where flickering torchlight turned pigments into movement, one truth seems certain. People were already trying to say something about connection. Inside one of the caves, the group finds bones scattered near a wall and blackened stones from an old fire. Tarn crouches beside them. "Others camped here before us," he says. Kor nods. "Maybe they left for the mountains." Ralna studies the walls. "Or maybe they left because of each other." Her voice carries a strange gravity. The others look at her. Long ago, she continues, a tribe lived in these caves. They hunted well and had many children. But jealousy grew among them, 2 women, 1 man. When anger came, the spirits turned away. The hunters began missing their prey. The tribe broke apart. It's hard to tell whether she's telling history or legend. But in prehistoric times, the two were the same thing. Every story carried truth wrapped in warning. As Ralna speaks, the firelight from their torches flickers across the walls, making the painted figures seem to dance. Sira feels something stir inside her, a mixture of guilt and recognition. She glances at Tarn, who stares at the paintings with unreadable eyes. Kor stands behind them, his jaw clenched, his shadow trembling against the stone. Outside, the rain begins again, tapping softly against the rock. Sira steps out to breathe the cool air. The valley stretches below, glistening and alive. Kor joins her, keeping his distance, but close enough to feel the warmth of her breath. "You shouldn't follow me," she whispers. "I wasn't following," he says. "I was listening." "To what?" "To something older than both of us." It's a strange answer, and yet, in this world of instinct and silence, it feels right. Neither moves. The rain falls between them like a curtain they're both afraid to lift. Back inside, Tarn watches them from the shadows. His chest tightens, though he can't explain why. It's not possession. He feels not exactly more like the pain of being left behind, in a story he thought he was part of. When they return to camp, the rain stops and the evening sky glows pale gold. The tribe gathers to eat, laughter returning slowly. But Sira's gaze keeps drifting toward the hills, where the cave still holds its secrets. That night when everyone sleeps, she dreams of the painted figures on the wall. In her dream, they move, joining hands, then stepping apart, their lines flickering in and out of the torchlight. The symbols twist into shapes she doesn't understand. But one thing is clear. The more they touch, the more the fire around them burns. Somewhere deep in her half-conscious mind, she wonders if love and danger have always been one and the same, and whether every handprint left on a cave wall was a confession written in stone. A curious archaeological tidbit adds a modern echo. Researchers once found that many cave handprints belong to women and adolescents, not just men. That discovery changed how we see these ancient artworks, not just as hunting symbols, but possibly as expressions of personal emotion, creativity, or even longing. Perhaps in some forgotten cavern, a woman like Sira once pressed her hand against the wall after a night of forbidden thoughts, leaving behind not just art, but evidence of a beating heart. The firelight dims, and the painted shapes seem to shift one last time, silent witnesses to passions older than time. The next day begins with the restless energy of a tribe preparing for a hunt. Spears glint in the new sunlight. Ropes and baskets are checked twice. The air carries that peculiar blend of excitement and tension that comes before danger. But beneath it all, beneath the sounds of sharpening flint and thudding feet, flows a quieter pulse, the unspoken rhythm of human desire, that force which often stirs strongest when life itself hangs in the balance. Kor leads part of the hunting team through tall golden grass, their shadows stretching long under the morning sun. He moves with fluid certainty, every step measured. Tarn joins reluctantly, silent and watchful. The two men exchange few words. Sira stays behind with the gatherers, but her thoughts follow them, especially one of them. The path of love and the path of survival have crossed again, and no one in the tribe knows what will come of it. The forest ahead hums with hidden life. Monkeys chatter in distant branches, and the faint musk of animal scent drifts through the air. The hunters move quietly, fanning out like ghosts. Their world is simple in one sense, eat or be eaten, yet infinitely complex in another. Even here, among predators and prey, jealousy travels beside them like an invisible hunter. When the group spots a small herd of antelope, Kor signals with his hand. They crouch, waiting for the right moment. Tarn, a little behind, grips his spear tighter than necessary. His eyes flick to Kor, then to the horizon, then back again. The line between competition and survival blurs. The herd moves. Kor throws first, clean and swift. The spear strikes true, and the animal falls. The rest scatter into the trees. The hunters shout triumphantly, laughter cutting through the tension. Tarn throws his own spear too late. It lands harmlessly in the dirt. His pride smolders like a dying ember. Good throw, someone says to Kor. Tarn forces a smile. Luck, he mutters. Kor wipes sweat from his brow. Maybe, or maybe practice. The others don't notice the undercurrent in their words, but Ralna, who always listens, feels it like a vibration in the ground. They carry the carcass back at sunset, their bodies tired, their spirits split between triumph and rivalry. The golden sky darkens to deep red, and the savannah glows like molten metal. Back at camp, Sira meets them at the fire. Her eyes light up when she sees Kor, but the moment is brief. Tarn steps in front of her, holding the spear she once carved for him. I saw the herd fall, she says softly. Tarn's spear helped too. Kor adds quickly. Tarn glances at him, unsure whether it's kindness or mockery. The tribe gathers for the meal. Meat sizzles over the fire, and laughter fills the air again. Yet beneath the warmth and smell of roasted fat, another kind of hunger lingers. It's the same hunger that once drove humans to explore, to fight, to love, the hunger for connection. That night after the meal, the fire burns lower. The elders hum slow songs, while children fall asleep in fur blankets. The stars emerge, thousands of them, sharp as sparks on black velvet. Kor and Sira's gazes meet again across the flickering light. Tarn notices. His heart twists not with fury, but with a deeper kind of ache, the realization that affection once shared can fade into something he cannot command. He rises abruptly and leaves the circle, vanishing into the tall grass. Ralna watches him go, shaking her head slightly. She has seen this before many times. The hunter's temptation. It isn't just lust. It's the lure of risk, the thrill of what's forbidden. The same impulse that drives men toward prey also drives them toward danger, even emotional danger. It's an ancient echo in human behavior. The excitement of pursuit. Science has a name for this paradox. The Coolidge effect observed not only in humans, but in many animals. It's the tendency to seek novelty, to rekindle desire through the unknown. Even in prehistoric times, this pattern may have shaped human relationships. Desire, after all, evolved to keep the species moving, exploring, mixing, not sitting still. So far, scholars remain divided on whether this instinct led to chaos or strengthened the tribe through genetic diversity. Outside camp, Tarn walks under the moonlight. The plain stretches endlessly before him, pale and silent. He stops by a boulder and sits, gripping the spear in his hands. His reflection shimmers faintly in a puddle. In it, he sees not a warrior, but a man lost between love and pride. He remembers Sira's laughter from long ago, before Kor arrived, before everything grew complicated. Meanwhile, back by the fire, Sira lies awake. Her heart pounds at every sound, a rustle, a footstep, a whisper of wind. She doesn't know if she wants Kor to approach or fears that he might. The firelight paints her face in gold and shadow, flickering like the thoughts she can't quiet. Kor, too, lies awake nearby. He knows he should stop thinking of her, but every instinct in him, honed for hunting, for survival, for pursuit, rebels against restraint. It isn't reason that drives him now. It's the same restless energy that built civilizations and destroyed them. In the darkness, somewhere between temptation and guilt, humanity inches one step closer to understanding itself. Desire, jealousy, love, they aren't flaws of civilization. They are its ancestors. As the night deepens, Tarn returns quietly. He doesn't speak to Sira. He lies beside her, eyes open, watching the glow of dying embers. The fire sputters once, then flares weakly, a spark against the long, silent night. And above them, the stars, countless, cold, indifferent, shine down upon this tiny corner of the world, where three hearts struggle against instincts older than memory. The rain has washed the air clean by dawn. Mist coils like smoke through the grass, and the tribe stirs slowly back to life. Children's laughter returns first, followed by the clatter of stone and bone tools. But even as morning light breaks across the camp, something lingers beneath the surface, an invisible current of tension that refuses to fade. Tarn speaks little. Sira moves with careful grace, as if afraid to draw attention. And Kor, though he keeps busy repairing snares, can't keep his thoughts still. The day stretches long, filled with the rhythm of work. Women gather wild nuts and herbs. Men repair huts made from branches and hides. Yet everyone senses the silent drama unfolding among the three. Prehistoric life might seem primitive to us, but social awareness, the ability to read emotions, alliances, and subtle betrayals was already razor sharp. That sensitivity to others kept groups alive. One unspoken conflict could poison the trust needed to survive a harsh season. Sira tends to the fire pit arranging dried wood. Her hands move automatically, but her mind drifts elsewhere. When Tarn passes by, she smiles faintly, though her eyes seem far away. He notices. He always notices now. Jealousy gnaws quietly, not as an explosion, but as a slow tightening in his chest. In this world, emotions don't have names yet, but they have weight. Jealousy, the first emotional storm of humanity, has arrived. It's an ancient force as natural as hunger, as destructive as lightning. And just like lightning, it often strikes without warning. By midday, the tribe takes a short rest. Tarn sits apart from the others, sharpening his spear with slow, deliberate strokes. Kor joins a group repairing nets near the riverbank, pretending to ignore the glances sent his way. Sira sits with Ralna plaiting strands of dried grass into rope. The old woman watches her carefully. "You're quiet," Ralna says. "I'm thinking," Sira answers. Thinking leads to trouble when the heart's involved. Ralna murmurs, tying another knot. Sira looks down. Can the heart choose who it follows? Ralna chuckles softly. No, but it can choose what it risks losing. That simple truth hangs heavy in the humid air. The river gurgles, nearby frogs croaking in the reeds. For a moment, it's peaceful, until a sudden shout breaks through the stillness. Kor and Tarn are arguing. It starts small, a dispute over hunting tools. Kor accuses Tarn of hiding extra stone points. Tarn snaps that Kor spends more time talking than working. But beneath the words, everyone hears the real fight. The tribe falls silent. Even the children freeze. Ralna rises slowly, her presence like the gravity that steadies the earth. She steps between them before it turns violent. "Enough," she says firmly. "We fight the world, not each other." Tarn's nostrils flare. He disrespects me. Kor meets his glare. "You see disrespect where there's only truth." Ralna turns to him. Truth spoken without care wounds deeper than lies. The confrontation dissolves into muttered words and lowered eyes. But everyone feels the aftershock. Jealousy doesn't end with shouting, it lingers, reshaping everything it touches. That night the camp is uneasy. The fire burns lower than usual, as if the flames themselves have grown cautious. Sira lies awake listening to the rain begin again. soft as whispering voices. Tarn sleeps beside her, restless. Across the camp, Kor sharpens another spear, though he knows they have enough. He needs the distraction. The scrape of stone against bone is rhythmic, steady, relentless. Scientists studying human evolution have found evidence that jealousy, far from being a weakness, may have evolved as a protective mechanism. It helped early humans guard their relationships and offspring, ensuring their genetic survival. But it came with a price: violent suspicion, heartbreak. So far, scholars remain divided on whether jealousy strengthened prehistoric bonds or fractured them beyond repair. A strange discovery from archaeological records adds a haunting detail. In some Neolithic burial sites, researchers found skeletons of men and women who died together, sometimes with injuries suggesting conflict. Some interpret these as sacrificial rituals, others as tragic stories of jealousy turned deadly. Whatever the truth, the emotional fingerprints are unmistakable. Back at the camp, the rain thickens into a steady downpour. Thunder rolls faintly in the distance. Sira rises quietly and steps outside, letting the cool drops fall over her. She closes her eyes, feeling the sky's weight press down. Somewhere nearby, Kor's silhouette moves near the fire. He looks up, their eyes meeting again through the veil of rain. Neither speaks. The sound of rain fills everything. For a heartbeat, the world shrinks to that moment, two figures drenched and silent, caught between instinct and consequence. Tarn stirs inside the shelter, but doesn't rise. Maybe he's dreaming. Maybe he's pretending not to know. When Sira finally turns away, her heart feels heavy, but also strangely alive. Jealousy may hurt, but it reminds her that she's human, that she feels, chooses, and risks. The fire hisses as rain hits the embers, steam rising into the night. Ralna watches from her own shelter, her old eyes reflecting the flicker of flame. She murmurs to herself, half prayer, half observation. Even gods would envy the trouble love brings. The storm deepens, wind sweeping through the valley. The tribe huddles close for warmth, unaware that jealousy, the first true emotion of ownership, has already rewritten the story of their small world. When dawn finally comes, nothing will look different, but everything will have changed. Dawn returns with a pale, milky light, and the camp exhales as if it's been holding its breath all night. The rain has rinsed the sense of ash and anger from the ground. Sira wakes early, not because she must, but because she chooses the quiet hour before anyone can read her face like tracks in soft mud. She steps toward the river with a basket and a digging stick, and a few women drift after her as if pulled by the same tide. Out here the world feels wider. Birds clatter through reeds. Dragonflies skim like thrown knives across the shallows. Sira kneels and tests the soil with her fingers, deciding which roots can be taken without starving the plant. Choice, she thinks. The tribe often speaks of necessity, but it is choice that changes everything. She feels it in her palms, what to harvest, what to leave, when to speak, when to be still, and who to stand beside when the fire grows low. The women settle into an easy rhythm. Dig, brush, knock, dirt, laugh. Ralna joins them late, carrying a small pouch of powdered ochre. She dusts a little on Sira's cheek to keep the gnats away, and then, because she's Ralna, adds a ceremonial dot on the bridge of Sira's nose. For courage, she says, and because you look fierce with it. Sira snorts. Fierce enough to scare a gazelle, Ralna winks. Fierce enough to scare a foolish man. Ochre has coated human skin for tens of thousands of years, sunblock insect repellent paint. And let's be honest, a prehistoric makeup kit. That's the mainstream fact humming beneath this scene. Pigment is technology, and technology is power. A quirkier tidbit: in some caves, lumps of ochre show scratch marks that look suspiciously like someone tested different shades prehistoric swatches. If that isn't the first cosmetics counter, it's at least the first art department. Ralna would have fit right in trading color advice for gossip. They keep working, and a conversation begins with no names, the sort that keeps tribes together when storms rip shelters and hearts apart. Sira speaks little, but the others know the shape of her silence. Young Lyra, eternal mischief, taps Sira's ankle with the digging stick. You want a rule or a raft? Sira blinks. What a rule keeps you where you are, Lyra says, grinning. A raft takes you where you're scared to go. Ralna groans. And sometimes the raft drops you into the crocodiles. Laughter breaks the tension, and the river keeps its secrets. Yet in that banter sits the gatherer's secret fire, female choice, layered and patient. While hunters chase hoof and horn across the horizon, women often choose the social climate of the camp: who eats with whom, who minds whose child which quarrel gets smothered with breadroot, and which gets fed to the wind. Their power is rarely shouted. It is braided like rope from 1,000 small threads. Sira stands and stretches back, popping like a dry twig. She watches the current and notices a sash of reeds tied with a twist knot, a women's signal. Not everything in the tribe is spoken in public. Sometimes a knot on a basket means, go slow. Sometimes a feather at the doorway means you're welcome. Sometimes a twist knot near the river means wait until tonight. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric women exercise consistent mate choice, or whether male coalitions dominated, pairing the narrator in our heads, might say. But the scene in front of us answers in its own language. Women coordinate. They share information about food patches, tempers, tenderness, violence, safety. Female agency doesn't arrive with cities. It moves quietly beneath the grass, as old as the foraging paths themselves. At midday, the foragers rest in a ring of shade. Ralna passes around a handful of bitter seeds. Chew, she says. Good for the stomach and for keeping talk honest. Lyra grimaces. Honesty tastes terrible. Truth often does, Ralna replies, tossing 2 seeds to Sira. What do you want? The question hangs there patient. Sira rolls a seed on her tongue, tasting its sharpness. She thinks of Tan's steady hands and the shelter they've built together. She thinks of Kor's quick laugh and the way his eyes hold horizons. She thinks of children racing around the fire and the nights when storms tear the roofs and everyone sings to drown the thunder. Wanting, she realizes, isn't one thing. It's seasons, it's weather, it changes. A kingfisher dives, strikes and erupts with silver in its beak. Lyra claps. The river doesn't ask permission, she says. It just goes where it goes. Ralna points with her chin. And it also floods and drowns camps. Remember that part. History long before the word has already run experiments. Among modern foragers, bonds can be flexible. Pairings shift without apocalypse because the village parents every child in the pinch. Among other groups, exclusive bonds are guarded like fire and water. Our deep past likely held both patterns side by side because landscapes, dangers and personalities differ wildly. The debate is not whether there was agency, but how it expressed itself in each place. Sira rises and walks the bank alone. She fingers the twist knot in the reeds, then undoes it and reties it into a loop that means later. Not no, not yes. Choice again, made in daylight, owned in daylight. She doesn't need thunder to decide, not today. Back in camp, the social gravity tilts. Sira exchanges baskets with a woman whose child clings to her hip. She trades her best scraping stone for the right to sit beside the storyteller at dusk. She volunteers for night watch so that a widow can sleep. Each move looks small, but each one adjusts the web, the dinner seating chart of survival, the airflow through the hive. If Tyrannosaurus had social media, this would be the subtweet. Core returns from checking snares and catches from a distance, the rhythm of Sierra's choices. He is a good hunter, but he knows the truth. Every seasoned traveler learns. You can cross a continent chasing game, yet one shared bowl at the fire decides your fate. He slows his step. No grand speeches, no stolen moments by the reeds. Just a nod across the work line when she glances up, the kind of nod that says, I see you as a person, not a prize. Award for best nonverbal communication goes to that nod. Tan watches jaw unclenched for the first time in days. He notices Sierra's trade with the widow. He sees her sit by the storyteller not across from Core. He takes a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Perhaps the future will still ask him to be brave, but the panic that gnawed him last night loosens its grip. When he returns to carving his hands, find the old steady rhythm. By twilight, the gatherer's work has become a quiet treaty. No one wrote it. No one can quote it. But it exists, a map of who sleeps where, who takes first watch, who passes the gourd of water first. The men think the hunt is the sharp edge of survival, and often it is. Yet tonight, the sharper edge is here in the shaded talk and braided rope in the looped knot by the river, in the soft rearrangement of the seating around the fire. Mainstream fact for the night: concealed ovulation in human females likely evolved to deepen pair bonds and broaden paternal investment, making social intelligence not antlers or tusks, the decisive trait. Quirky tidbit to tuck behind your ear like a feather. Some of the oldest bone needles bear polish on the eye that suggests constant threading and rethreading. If that isn't evidence of prehistoric wardrobe malfunctions and emergency tailoring, nothing is. And the open question that keeps textbook spicy so far, scholars remain divided on whether those very traits concealed cycles, long childhood shared provisioning, pushed our species toward tighter monogamy, or simply made our love lives more gracefully complicated. Night gathers. The first stars appear, tiny flints in a black hide. Sierra sets down her basket and sits not between the two men, but beside Ralna. The old woman's hand-scarred, powdered, faintly red rests over Sierra's for a heartbeat. No magic words, only the warmth of somebody who remembers that desire burns bright, but wisdom burns steady. The fire leans toward the river wind. Sparks lift, wander, and vanish like thoughts that were brave for one breath and then content to rest. Around the flames, the tribe rediscovers its rhythm. Children drowsing, elders trading stories, hunters boasting in low voices. And across it all, the secret fire, female choice, quiet and deliberate, keeps the camp from cracking, keeps the hearts from turning to flint. Somewhere far off, a hyena laughs at a joke we'll never hear. It's fine. We have our own. The tribe's HR department is still Ralna's left eyebrow. The cosmetics aisle is a lump of ochre. And the group chat is the smoke column over the trees, reliable, a little dramatic and visible from miles away. Sierra lifts her gaze to the stars and decides for tonight to sleep without fear. Choice made raft tied to shore. The river still moves, but so does she. Night folds over the savannah like a dark hide stitched with stars. The tribe dozes in clustered shelters, breaths rising and falling with the fire's faint glow. Only Ralna stays half awake, listening to wind and memory. She hums a threadbare melody while embers blink like sleepy eyes. And somewhere above all this time itself tilts, letting a different kind of storytelling spill in the story, written not on stone or skin, but inside every cell. DNA doesn't lie. It shrugs at gossip, ignores bravado, and whispers what really happened when no one was looking. Core turns in his sleep. Tarn's hand twitches as if gripping a spear. Sierra dreams of river light. None of them know that far in the future people will take powder from bones and coax secrets from it, with glass tubes and humming machines. Yet their choices, every nod, every knot of reed, every night watch volunteered, have already begun to etch themselves into a record more stubborn than charcoal on cave walls. The mainstream fact, crisp as flint ancient DNA, can reveal kinship patterns in prehistoric camps. In one Neanderthal cave, for example, researchers found related males and less related females clustered together, hinting at patrilocal living, where women moved between groups while men stayed put. In other forager burials of our own species, the opposite sometimes appears. The picture refuses to sit still, but either way gene flow the friendly term for who visited, whose fire moved along social roads the artifacts only half explain. Back at our camp, the social roads are visible in small things. A gourd passes to a widow first. A child sleeps tonight beside an aunt, not a mother. Sarah sits with Ralna again, undramatic steady. The earlier storm has not blown the tribe apart, and that too matters. A calm camp leaves clearer footprints for the future to read. If you want good archaeology, step 1 is fewer arguments around the pot. Step 2, label your bone needles. Looking at you, Lyra. There's a quirkier tidbit humming in the dark decades from now, scientists comparing mitochondrial DNA passed down through mothers and Y chromosome markers passed through fathers will notice that in many populations, mtDNA shows wider variety. One reading is simple: women often moved between groups, spreading their lineages like seeds on the wind. Another reading is spicier: some men racked up more offspring than others, thanks to status charisma, or just really excellent fire-starting playlists. The genome keeps score even when no one else is counting. Kor mutters in sleep. Perhaps he hears antelope hooves or the river's laugh. Tarn wakes briefly, rolls onto his side, and watches Sierra's shoulder rise and fall. The triangle that once felt like a knife now feels more like a knot, still tight, but not cutting. He doesn't know why, but we do 100 small gestures braided into a social rope strong enough to hold 3 people on a windy night. If DNA could annotate the moment it might type cooperation, catastrophe. Here's where the story reaches beyond our firelight. Later peoples, their bones resting under barrows, dunes and farm fields, will leave genetic mosaics that look like braided rope too. In some eras, waves of migrating men marry into local communities. In others, it's women who stitch the map together. Children appear who share mothers' lineages, but not fathers. Cousins cluster across valleys. Cemeteries tell of households more fluid than any tidy family tree can capture. So far, scholars remain divided on whether such patterns reflect affairs as we imagine them: deliberate partner exchange, for alliance-building serial pair bonds across seasons, or simply survival logic written in flesh. The genome says something mixed. Culture asks, which story fits around our camp? A log collapses and throws up a brief fan of sparks, our favorite group chat reactivating. Ralna sighs, tosses on a stick, and murmurs the night watch joke again. The tribe's HR department really is her left eyebrow. If future scientists ever sequence that eyebrow, they'll find at least 4 policies against marrying anyone who makes the water gourd go empty. This is humor. Please do not publish in Nature. Another mainstream anchor measured across many modern societies, extra-pair paternity rates, are typically lower than pop culture imagines, usually a few %, not a stampede. But averages mean little in small, stressed bands. Drought, famine, or conflict can tilt the numbers quickly. In camps like ours, where storms and predators press hard, people redistribute risk the way they redistribute food. Sometimes that means aunties and uncles co-parenting. Sometimes it means a child's genes carry two villages in one heartbeat. A breeze moves through lifting the hide flap. Sira stirs, opens her eyes, and sees nothing but the faintest grey. She thinks of the twist knot she retied to later, and feels the quiet rightness of it. Choice recorded, not on paper, but perhaps one day in a statistic that says a particular lineage didn't vanish when the rains failed. That's the hidden grammar of prehistory feelings today, frequencies tomorrow. A fringe-leaning tidbit to tuck beside the ochre. There are whispers among some researchers that unusually uniform tooth wear in certain small cemeteries might hint at cooperative child-rearing diets, meaning kids ate from many hands, not just two. It's not courtroom proof, but is the kind of clue that pairs sweetly with the genetic mosaics. If the camp raises the child paternity, anxiety dims, an affair loses its sting because the village ledger favors survival over ownership. Core shifts again, and just briefly, Sira's gaze flicks toward his shelter before she closes her eyes. No promises are made tonight. No betrayals codified. The camp sleeps, and the genome busy, quiet, unsentimental files the day's minutes. Morning will come with chores. Nets will need mending. Roots will need soaking. Lara will almost certainly invent glow-in-the-dark toilet paper out of crushed fireflies and demand a patent from Ralna. Callback achieved. Please applaud silently. People are sleeping. The tribe will move forward because that is what tribes do. And the long archive inside their bones will move forward too, recording a story much bigger than jealousy or triumph. A story of flows of women crossing rivers of men, tending fires of children, inheriting courage in two directions at once. So when we ask, did prehistoric people have extramarital affairs? The genome lifts a non-committal eyebrow worthy of Ralna. It shows us networks where we expected lines, braids, where we expected ladders, and variability where we wanted rules. It tells us that desire, alliance, grief, generosity, and chance all wrote chapters, and it leaves one sentence open at the end the one scholars keep underlining. So far, scholars remain divided on whether the heart's detours weakened or strengthened early human groups. But the record in bone and blood suggests the camp endured, not despite complexity, but because of it. The embers dim to a soft red. Ralna finally sleeps. Above the shelter, the sky lightens a little thin as the memory of a dream. And inside three resting bodies, a quieter truth works on without ceremony, turning life into lineage, turning choices into chords for the future to hear. Morning returns in a shimmer of silver mist. Dew clings to the grass, glinting like scattered beads, and the tribe wakes to the smell of damp ash and roasting tubers. Life once again resumes its steady rhythm, gather, hunt, share, rest. Yet beneath this surface, simplicity, invisible bargains, and quiet negotiations shape every breath of survival. Love and jealousy may stir hearts, but it's sharing status and survival that hold the tribe together when hunger tests every bond. Cortan and Sira move through the same space now with careful precision. They exchange nods, words when necessary, but no one steps too close. The balance feels restored, but everyone knows it's fragile like a hide stretched too tight across a drum. Around the fire, Ralna watches them, expression unreadable, as if she's waiting to see whether wisdom or instinct will win this round. Among prehistoric tribes, sharing was the cornerstone of existence. No individual could afford to hoard food or tools for long. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies today, like the Kung in southern Africa or the Hadza in Tanzania, note that generosity wasn't just kindness, it was social insurance. To share was to invest in survival. A hunter who returned with more meat than he could eat gained not wealth but reputation, allies, and favors owed. The same principle extended in more complicated ways to relationships. Food, protection, even affection, these were currencies traded to secure stability. When the hunt failed, a woman might rely on another partner for her children's meals. When a man was injured, he might depend on others' mates for care or companionship. It sounds scandalous through modern ears, but in that world, the idea of mine was still a new and fragile invention. So far, scholars remain divided on whether such sharing represented open sexual customs or purely pragmatic alliances, but all agree that human survival often depended on a willingness to blur boundaries. The afternoon hums with activity. The tribe works together to preserve the fresh kill from yesterday's strips of meat hung over smoke fat melted into clay jars. Lyra, ever talkative, teases Kor about his perfect spear throw, while two children copy him pretending to hunt invisible beasts. Tarn joins them with a grin that feels easier now, helping the smaller child correct his grip. For the first time in days, the laughter sounds genuine. Sira passes behind them, carrying a water skin. Her eyes meet Kor's for a brief second, a spark of understanding, not longing. They both know what Ralna meant when she said, "We fight the world, not each other." Maybe desire was never the enemy. Isolation was. That evening, the tribe gathers for a communal meal. Ralna oversees the portioning. No one eats before the elders, and no one leaves hungry. But there's more at play than fairness. It's choreography. The act of sharing builds invisible architecture in the tribe's mind. Who sits where, who speaks, who listens. Those arrangements decide whose opinions carry weight and whose alliances hold sway when danger comes. Across the firelight, Kor shares a bone filled with marrow with Tarn. It's a gesture that needs no words. Tarn accepts it with a nod, perhaps reluctant, but genuine. A few of the younger hunters notice whispering, then returning to their food with relieved smiles. Peace, temporary or not, has been restored. As the night grows older, Ralna tells a story to the children, her voice low and steady. Once she begins, there was a hunter who found a cave full of endless meat. He ate and ate until he could no longer move. But when he called for help, no one came because he had never shared his fire. The cave stayed full, but so did his loneliness. The children giggle at first, but the adults exchange knowing glances. Every story in this world carries two meanings, one for the young and one for those who've already broken and mended their hearts. A soft wind rustles the tall grass beyond camp. In the half-dark, Sira looks around at her people, their faces aglow with laughter, with the satisfaction of full bellies. She realizes that love here is not just about passion or loyalty. It's about belonging. The tribe itself is the real partner, and everyone in their own way is married to survival. Still, even with peace around the fire, the old questions don't vanish. Jealousy, desire, competition, they sleep lightly, waiting for the next test. Evolution never promised perfection, only adaptation. And so the tribe adapts again, rewriting its unwritten rules. There's a strange comfort in this rhythm. Every relationship, every exchange food, affection alliance, feeds the same great circle. Each person gives what they can, receives what they need, and in between, they leave traces of themselves. Laughter, kindness, mistakes, and occasionally forgiveness. A quirky discovery from modern anthropology echoes this moment beautifully. In several small-scale societies, scientists have observed a kind of prestige economy, where generosity, not wealth, grants influence. The more one gives away, the more respect one earns. It's the exact opposite of capitalism, status built not by possession, but by relinquishing it. And perhaps that's the oldest form of love humanity ever knew to give without guarantee to share even when trust trembles. The fire dwindles, the stories fade, and one by one the tribe settles into rest. Ralna hums softly to herself an old tune no one else remembers the words to. Sira curls beneath her hide eyes closing on the sight of smoke rising to meet the stars. Somewhere nearby, Kor's breathing merges with the rhythm of the night, and Tarn's hand finds hers beneath the fur's steady human forgiving. In a world where nothing is owned, even forgiveness feels borrowed. But for tonight it's enough. The camp is full, the heart's quiet, and the ancient balance holds for one more night. The dawn breaks with the smell of smoke and sweet roots roasting. Birds chatter restlessly among the trees, and the distant murmur of a stream threads through the valley. A morning like any other, except that today the tribe gathers around a small celebration. A child, the youngest in the group, has taken his first steps. The whole camp beams with pride, clapping softly, laughing gently so as not to scare him. His mother, a tall woman named Ina, lifts him high and calls out to the sky. That laughter, the whole tribe's laughter, ripples through the camp like sunlight breaking through fog. But somewhere behind it, beneath the simple joy, lies one of the strangest mysteries of all, the question of parentage. Who are the children of the tribe, really? Who belongs to whom? In this world, bloodlines are not drawn in ink. They're written in the rhythm of shared care, in who feeds whom, who guards whom, and who holds whom, through the coldest nights. Among the prehistoric people, fatherhood was often uncertain, while motherhood was undeniable. It was the first and perhaps only biological certainty they had. Anthropologists studying traditional societies have found echoes of this ancient arrangement, what's sometimes called partible paternity. In some South American tribes, for instance, a woman may sleep with multiple partners during pregnancy, believing that each man contributes a portion of his life force to the child. And so several men might consider themselves fathers, each responsible for the child's well-being. Scholars remain divided on whether such practices were widespread in prehistory, but the idea reflects a logic deeper than romance, a communal investment in survival. The children of many fathers, that's how this tribe sees it too. Kor and every other man in the group teach the young ones how to throw spears, how to track footprints, how to find water by reading bird flight. The women too care for every child as their own, sharing milk, food and stories. Jealousy still stirs sometimes, but against this backdrop of shared responsibility, it rarely grows into hate. As the day warms, Kor crouches by the stream, helping little Nalu, the child who just learned to walk, stack flat stones. The boy's laugh is infectious. Tarn joins in, showing him how to balance a larger rock on top. Like this, Tarn says, his voice patient. Kor grins. Not bad. You've got the hands for building, not just fighting. Tarn snorts, but the tension between them has softened into something almost like friendship. Sira watches from a distance, half smiling. In this fragile cooperation, she sees the tribe healing itself, not through apologies or speeches, but through the oldest ritual of all, raising the next generation together. The mainstream fact embedded here is simple, but profound: cooperative breeding, or shared parenting, is one of the evolutionary cornerstones that made humans different from other primates. Where chimpanzee mothers raise infants largely alone, humans evolved a system where grandparents, siblings, and even non-relatives contribute. This, it takes a village model, allowed our species to thrive even in harsh environments. But there's also a quirky, almost poetic twist. Recent genetic studies have revealed traces of this complexity. Children in ancient graves, whose DNA shows mothers from one region and fathers from another, siblings who share mothers but not fathers, in groups where multiple adults seem to have parented overlapping generations. What the genome can't record, the stories around this campfire make clear. Love, however it looked back then, was rarely simple, but it was rarely cruel either. In the afternoon, as clouds gather, Ralna calls the tribe together for a ritual of thanks. Each family, or what passes for one, places a token near the fire, a feather, a bead, a small stone marked with ochre. These are gifts, not to gods, but to memory. So the spirits know, Ralna says, that we take care of one another. Tarn places a carved bead beside the flames. Kor adds a small flint blade. Sira steps forward, hesitating only a moment before placing a tuft of dried grass, bound with sinew, something delicate, but strong enough to tie two worlds together. When she steps back, their eyes meet once more. It's not passion now, it's understanding. When night falls, the air is heavy with mist again. Children sleep piled together like puppies, the air thick with warmth and trust. Kor lies awake, staring at the stars. He knows deep down that Nalu might be his son, or might not. And strangely, it doesn't matter. The boy will grow in safety. He will learn the songs, the hunts, the laughter. He will carry the fire onward. That's enough. Sira lies beside Tarn, her hand resting lightly on his chest. His breath rises and falls steadily. She's grateful for his steadiness, his endurance, the way he endures the heart storms without turning to stone. Love, she thinks, is not just fire. It's also the patience to wait through rain. A sudden gust of wind makes the fire flare. Sparks rise, swirling upward like tiny souls. Ralna mutters from her shelter, half asleep. The ancestors are awake tonight. They like what they see. Maybe they do. For beneath this patch of stars, the tribe has found something as rare as safety peace that includes imperfection. Bonds are not broken. They're braided, tangled, rewoven again and again, just like the rope that holds their shelters together. The children of many fathers sleep soundly, guarded by the entire tribe, and through their dreams, the future already hums full of faces not yet born, each carrying a piece of every heart that ever loved, strayed, forgave, or tried again. The air has changed. It carries the dry crispness that warns of the coming lean months. The tribe feels it before anyone names it. Fewer roots near the river. Less game on the plains, birds migrating northward too soon. Even laughter sounds thinner these days, as if the world itself has learned restraint. Survival, once effortless rhythm, now becomes calculation. Sira rises early to check the baskets of stored nuts and dried meat. She runs her fingers through the woven lids, counting in silence. Ralna joins her, wrapped in a hide, her breath a visible cloud. It won't last till the next rain, the old woman murmurs. We can stretch it, Sira says automatically. Ralna's eyes flick toward the hills. We can stretch food, not hunger. The conversation dissolves, but the truth lingers. Scarcity will test the tribe more deeply than jealousy ever did. And that inevitably brings a new kind of danger, the one born of ownership. As food becomes scarce, people begin to guard their portions. Hands hover closer to baskets. Eyes track every exchange. Sharing still happens, but more cautiously, more with memory of who shared before and who didn't. This quiet change marks a turning point, not just for the tribe, but for humanity itself, the dawn of property. The coming of property and possession doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in like morning frost, thin and glittering, harmless until it hardens. One day a man claims a patch of riverbank as his fishing spot. Another a grove of fruit trees as his to watch over. Someone piles stones to mark the edge of where he built his shelter. And before anyone realizes, the invisible lines of mine and yours have appeared. Kor feels it keenly. He still hunts for the group, but he notices the subtle shifts, the way certain families guard their smoked meat longer, the way Tarn hesitates before handing a portion to others. Sira sees it too, especially when mothers start keeping separate piles for their own children. It's only for safety, one of them tells her, and maybe it is. But something larger is changing, a new rhythm of life forming under their feet. Historians and anthropologists call this transition the birth of proto-agriculture. But in truth, it began in minds long before hands touched soil. Possession was an emotional idea before it was an economic one. The sense of this belongs to me starts in the heart with affection, jealousy, loyalty, and only later moves to things. Love built the first fences. A mainstream fact echoes here around 12,000 years ago. At the dawn of the Neolithic period, humans shifted from nomadic bands to settled farming villages. Archaeological layers show more storage pits, more tools for grinding grain, more evidence of ownership, and sadly, more evidence of conflict. Once resources could be hoarded, people could be excluded. The word ours began to shrink. But back in this earlier age, our tribe's time, the seeds of that shift are still soft. Sharing and ownership coexist awkwardly, like siblings forced to share the same sleeping mat. One afternoon, the hunters return with little to show. A dry wind blows from the east, scattering dust through the camp. The mood darkens. Ralna senses it immediately and orders a ritual. We give thanks, she declares, not for what we have, but for what we remember having. She instructs everyone to offer a small piece of food to the fire. It's a symbolic act of surrender, reminding them that nothing truly belongs to anyone. Tarn tosses a strip of dried meat into the flames, watching it curl and blacken. That could have fed a child, he mutters. Ralna fixes him with her sharp old gaze. And it still does, she says softly. The fire is the first child. Feed it, and it keeps us all alive. The tribe obeys. Even Kor, though uneasy, adds a bit of his hunted meat. Sira, last of all, breaks a root in two, half to the fire, half to a hungry child beside her. The act quiets everyone. It's a reminder of what they were before the lines appeared. That night, Sira sits near the fire with Tarn. He looks exhausted, older somehow. It's strange, he says quietly. We've always hunted and shared. But lately, when I see someone take more, I feel robbed. Maybe that's what hunger does, Sira says. He shakes his head. No, it's not just hunger. It's fear. His words cut close to truth. Ownership is born not of greed, but of fear. Fear of losing what little one has, of being left behind. And fear, once born, breeds rules. Rules need enforcement. Enforcement births hierarchy. Thus, from the bones of love and fear, civilization begins to grow. Kor approaches with another log for the fire. Ralna says, tomorrow we move north, he announces. The game trails are better there. Tarn nods, but his jaw tightens. If we move, others might follow our path. We should mark it. Mark it, Kor frowns. With stones, Tarn says. So they know this is ours. Sira watches the exchange silently. The two men who once fought over her now argue over invisible boundaries drawn on the earth. It's almost poetic, almost tragic. She wonders whether humans will always trade one kind of claim for another. A curious archaeological tidbit supports this very moment. In several Upper Paleolithic sites, stones arranged in deliberate patterns, lines, circles, enclosures appear long before farming. Some scientists believe these were early territorial markers, signs of groups beginning to define their space. Others think they were ceremonial. Either way, it was the same instinct to anchor identity to place. When dawn comes, The tribe packs what little they have. As they begin their migration, Sira glances back at the camp. The fire pit smoulders. The stones tarn stacked around it gleam faintly in the light. It looks almost like a wall. She sighs. We'll build walls, she whispers to herself, and we'll need stories big enough to climb them. The tribe moves north. Behind them, the wind sweeps across the empty camp, erasing footprints, scattering ashes, making sure nothing, not even ownership, can last forever. The journey north is long. For days, the tribe walks through valleys, veiled in fog, across open plains that shimmer with heat, and beneath forests where branches knit together like dark cathedrals. Hunger travels with them. So does weariness. Yet the fire never goes out. Ralna guards its embers in a clay bowl, passing it from hand to hand like a living heart. By the time they reach the high cliffs overlooking a river, they are ghosts of themselves, thin, sunburned, silent. And yet something new begins to awaken among them, something ancient and dangerous belief. When food and shelter waver, people look to what they cannot see. And in that invisible realm, desire and fear start to merge with imagination. The tribe sets up camp beneath a jagged ridge. That night the sky blooms with stars, bright enough to make the earth itself glow. Ralna stands before the fire, her eyes reflecting the light. The spirits walk close tonight, she says, voice trembling with both awe and exhaustion. They remind us that nothing belongs to us. Not food, not fire, not love. All of it passes through us like wind through the grass. But not everyone believes her. Lyra, still brash and mischievous, mutters to Sira. If spirits cared so much, they'd send a deer or two. Sira smiles weakly, but she understands the deeper unrest. When survival hangs by a thread, even laughter turns into prayer. The next morning, as mist lifts from the river, the tribe finds something strange. A ring of stones laid carefully on the bank, each one marked with lines of red ochre. No one remembers placing them. The elders whisper that it must be a sign, a gift from the unseen. Tarn kneels beside the stones, tracing the lines with a trembling finger. Looks like fire, he murmurs. Or desire, Ralna says softly. And just like that, the tribe begins to build stories. Myth, magic, and forbidden desire, they rise together like smoke. The stones become altars. The river becomes sacred. Even hunger becomes symbolic, a test of favor or punishment. People begin to speak of the unseen watchers, spirits, who bless fidelity and curse betrayal. Jealousy, once merely emotion, now becomes morality. The tribe that once followed instinct now starts to weigh its heart in ritual. Scholars of early religion argue endlessly about this transformation. Some say mythology emerged from attempts to explain natural forces. Others see it as the social glue that stabilized larger groups, a divine narrative reinforcing loyalty. But so far, scholars remain divided on whether the roots of morality grew from survival, from love, or from fear of cosmic judgment. Back at the riverside, those debates are still unwritten. The tribe simply feels something stirring, powerful, and unnamed. One night when the moon hangs low and red, the tribe gathers around the fire. Ralna begins to chant softly the words, rhythmic and circular. What burns in us burns in the sky. What we love the stars love too. What we take we must return. Her voice grows deeper, blending with the crackle of flames. The others join in, their bodies swaying in unison, eyes half closed. Sira feels heat rise in her chest, not just from the fire, but from something primal, communal, almost electric. The dance becomes hypnotic. The line between devotion and desire blurs. The people who once lived by logic of hunger now move to rhythm of trance. Someone throws powdered herbs into the fire and blue sparks leap upward. In that shifting light, every emotion seems sanctified: jealousy, longing, lust, forgiveness. It's all part of the same storm. The tribe begins to believe that desire itself is divine, that love in all its messy forms is how the gods recognize them. There's a peculiar archaeological echo of this idea. In Neolithic shrines found in Anatolia and the Balkans, archaeologists discovered fertility figurines, some embracing some in pairs, some surrounded by painted flames. Were they gods of reproduction, or memorials to passion, or simply echoes of nights like this one, when humans learned to turn desire into ceremony? No one knows for sure, but the clay remembers the warmth of human hands. As the chanting grows wilder, Tarn steps into the circle, his face lit from below by the blue fire. He takes Sira's hand, pulling her closer. For a heartbeat, the world stops spinning. Kor watches from across the fire, not with rage, but with quiet understanding. He knows this gesture isn't about ownership. It's a ritual performance, something larger than either of them. Still, his pulse quickens. When the dance ends, everyone collapses in the grass, laughing breathlessly. The air smells of smoke and salt of sweat and something sweetly human. For the first time in weeks, the tribe feels alive again. The ceremony has changed them not by solving their problems, but by giving those problems meaning. Ralna smiles faintly as she tends the dying flames. Now the spirits will walk with us, she murmurs. They have tasted our fire. As dawn stretches over the horizon, mist rising like incense, Sira sits beside the river, still trembling from the energy of the night. She feels no guilt, only wonder. Maybe the divine isn't some distant watcher, she thinks. Maybe it's the pulse that moves between two people, the fire that makes the tribe dance instead of despair. The world around her is silent, except for the river's slow murmur, ancient, indifferent, eternal. And yet, in that moment, humanity has crossed another threshold. Where once there was only hunger, now there is meaning. A quirky fringe theory whispers that the very first myths were born not around food or death, but around love, that the first gods were the ones people saw reflected in each other's eyes. Whether or not that's true, Sira feels the truth of it tonight. Desire isn't just a temptation. It's the first prayer ever whispered by the human heart. As the sun lifts above the ridge, turning mist into gold, she closes her eyes and breathes in deeply. The fire crackles faintly behind her, still warm. Somewhere far in the distance, thunder murmurs not of storm, but of awakening. Wind moves over the river like a slow hand smoothing a wrinkled hide. The tribe calmer after the rite settles into the day's work, mending nets, scraping hides, telling small jokes that sound like pebbles skipping across water. Ralna hums. Children practice throwing reed spears at a circle drawn in dust. Tarn and Kor trade a few quiet words without sparks. Sira gathers herb stems for tea. The camp breathes. Far beyond this firelight, across millennia and into lecture halls, where screens glow brighter than stars, another camp argues about this very scene. Scholars at odds, each with a story they swear the bones are telling. Some say prehistoric love was mostly open, shaped by survival and the need for flexible bonds. Others say pair bonding tightened early because our long childhoods demanded two steady hands at the cradle. And a third group, perhaps the wisest, shrugs and says, it depends which is academic for the world, is complicated. Please pass the coffee. The mainstream fact that anchors this storm of opinions goes like this: contemporary hunter-gatherers don't all live the same way. Some groups lean towards serial monogamy. Others allow multiple partners or fluid partnerships over time. Still others hold formal expectations with informal exceptions that everyone pretends not to notice to keep the peace. If modern foragers vary this much, the deep past almost certainly did too. Different ecologies, predator seasons, and personalities braiding 1,000 local customs. Back at the riverbank, the tribe's version of peer review unfolds with fewer footnotes and better scenery. Lera insists that alliances keep people fed, so flexibility is holy. Tarn counters that loyalty makes children safe, so steadiness is sacred. Kor sharpening a spear says nothing. His silence votes for nuance. Ralna, of course, announces that both can be true and assigns them to gather firewood together, her favorite experimental design. A quirkier tidbit floats in from the future. Somewhere at a conference poster session, a researcher once tried to model prehistoric mating systems with a bowl of trail mix. Almonds were long-term bonds, raisins were occasional partners, and chocolate chips were mystery variables. The paper never made it into a top journal, but the bowl was empty in 6 minutes, which feels like rigorous evidence that humans are still humans at the snack table. The debate's sharp edge is jealousy. If desire roams, how do groups avoid tearing themselves apart? One camp of scholars argues that emotional rules rituals, songs those twist knots in reeds served as software for the social brain, smoothing conflicts before they exploded. Another camp says biological guardrails did the work, concealed ovulation, cooperative childcare, and slow life histories nudged people toward tolerating uncertainty, because the village, not the couple, carried the load. So far, scholars remain divided on whether prehistoric humans practiced monogamy as a norm polygyny when status allowed, or lived in a spectrum where labels melt at the edges like fat over a low fire. Sira listens without listening. She braids rope checks a drying rack and drifts through the camp, threading tiny stitches of calm into ripped places. She knows that labels matter less than behavior. Did someone show up with food, with a hand for the feverish child, with a melody to hush a restless night? Those are the laws that actually pass. Near the fire, Ralna lifts a charred stick and draws 3 lines in the dirt. Some want 1 line, she says, steady, single straight. Others want many lines crossing. She drags the second stick through weaving. Most of us live here where the lines meet, tangle, and sometimes snap. She taps the 3rd line, then wipes all 3 away with her palm. And the rain erases everything eventually. The children laugh at the magic trick. The adults breathe the lesson. In far-off journals, numbers take their turn. Geneticists point out that across many societies today, rates of extra-pair paternity are lower than rumors suggest, often only a few %. Behavioral scientists reply that averages hide weather droughts, spike risk. Sharing feasts tighten bonds. Archaeologists join in waving household layouts and storage pits as evidence for either stricter family units or communal kitchens. Everyone presents a lens. Nobody gets the whole sky. If this sounds frustrating, it is. If it sounds familiar, welcome to the campfire of science, where the glow is warm and the mosquitoes are very peer-reviewed. A breeze carries the smell of wet clay. Kor and Tarn return from checking traps with a single hare and 2 empty snares. It's not much, but nobody scolds them. Scarcity writes kinder rules when kindness feeds tomorrow. Kor hands the hare to a mother whose child cough kept her awake. Tarn refits a snare by the path, so the next passerby won't trip. They don't announce these things. The camp notices anyway. Status here is a quiet ledger. At the edge of the clearing, Sira kneels to rinse a gourd. Her reflection looks steadier than it did last week. Not because the heart has hardened, but because the tribe has softened around it. Whatever word the future chooses, monogamy, openness. It's complicated. She knows the camp's real decision engine, who is needed, who shows up, who harms no one while helping many. If there's a marriage today, it's between necessity and mercy. Another mainstream marker drifts in from bones and beads as society's settled burials begin to cluster adults positioned near children in patterns some read as families, others as houses of ancestor. Are those nuclear units lineages, guilds? The data smile like sphinxes. Interpretation rides in on the camel you feed ecology for one scholar, ritual for another, politics for a third. Somewhere, a grad student adds all of the above and hopes the committee is in a generous mood. The tribe breaks for a warm, thin stew that tastes better than it has any right to. Lyra claims the flavor is due to her proprietary spice blend, which appears to be whatever fell in the pot when I tripped. We award one joke badge and revoke her culinary license in the same breath. Ralna, unimpressed, slips a pinch of real herb into the pot and calls it mentorship. As dusk unrolls, the sky looks like stretched hide-dyed indigo. People sit nearer than usual, passing the gourd and speaking in soft tones that sand down rough edges. No proclamations are made. No oaths are carved on stone. Instead, the camp conducts its nightly experiment. Can a dozen small, gracious acts stop the big, loud problems from waking up tonight? At least, the answer is yes. And the scholars? They keep circling our fire from far away. Some will argue that the openness we glimpse is exaggerated by romance. Others will claim the fidelity we admire is a myth we retrofitted. The honest ones will say what Ralna already drew in ash, different lines, same rain. So far, scholars remain divided on whether love's earliest shapes were fences or footpaths, but most agree on the thing that matters to sleepers the camp endured. Stars spark through the branches. Someone surely Lyra murmurs an update on her famous glow-in-the-dark toilet paper startup. Research continues. Investors remain skeptical. Fireflies have filed a labor complaint. Laughter tilts the night toward tenderness. Sira leans her shoulder against Tarn's for a moment, then passes the tool to Kor without ceremony. It's not a triangle anymore. It's a bridge with two good piers and a careful span. The river goes on saying river things. The wind keeps the secrets it was paid to keep, and between research questions and cooking pots, the oldest truth settles lightly over the camp. People make do, then they make meaning, and somewhere between the two, they make each other gentler. The air turns cool heavy with the smell of wet stone. Smoke from the cooking fire drifts low across the riverbank, curling between the shelters like unspoken thoughts. Morning has come again, and with it quiet. The tribe has survived another season. There's food enough for now, no sickness stalking the camp, no storm threatening the shelters. But still, something invisible moves through the air, a question that no one can quite name. Sira wakes early sitting by the fading fire. The others still sleep, Tarn's hand draped loosely over her arm, Kor snoring faintly a few steps away. The fire's glow paints their faces in the same dim light, softening every sharp edge, every old hurt. She realizes then how strange and fragile this piece is, how love and rivalry, jealousy and forgiveness all live in the same breath. Love, it seems, is the one thing the tribe cannot ration. It spreads like warmth, uninvited and unstoppable. And even after everything, its embers still glow. As she stirs the ashes, her thoughts wander to something deeper, the way emotions come and go like seasons, but always return in familiar shapes. It's not so different now from the beginning. The difference is understanding. They've learned that survival depends not on denying the heart, but on knowing how to live beside its contradictions. By midday, the camp is alive again. Hunters check traps. Women gather herbs. Ralna hums as she crushes seeds for medicine, muttering about the lazy youth who can't tell a cough root from a poison bulb. Lyra laughs and deliberately picks the wrong one, earning a flick to the ear. The mood is lighter than it has been in months. Yet beneath the laughter lies something profound, something that even modern minds still wrestle with. Humans crave belonging, but also freedom. We yearn for loyalty, but also novelty. We fear losing love, but equally fear being trapped by it. Evolution, that old mischievous storyteller, wired both instincts into the same brain and left us to negotiate the difference. Kor joins Sira near the water-tossing pebbles that skip twice before sinking. Strange, isn't it? He says. We've walked half a lifetime trying to stay alive, but it's the heart that nearly killed us. Sira smiles faintly. Maybe that's how we know we're more than animals. Kor tilts his head. Or maybe it's proof we still are. They both laugh softly without tension. The past has lost its sting, though the memory of it remains. That too is part of being human. A mainstream truth hums underneath their small talk. The emotional architecture of the modern human brain is ancient. MRI scans show that love, lust, and jealousy activate primal reward, and fear circuits the same regions that kept early hunters alert to predators and opportunities. To fall in love, to compete, to forgive it all, lights up the same deep brain as the hunt and the chase. The difference is only in what we're chasing. Somewhere nearby, Tan kneels beside a group of children, teaching them how to build a snare. You see, he says patiently, it's not the trap that matters. It's where you place it. The words carry farther than he intends. Sira glances over her shoulder, smiling to herself. For once, it doesn't sound like a warning. That night after the meal, Ralna tells another story, one she hasn't shared before. Her voice carries softly through the dark. Long ago, she begins, a woman loved two men. One hunted the land, one healed the sick. She could not choose. So she asked the moon to decide. The moon said, "You already have." And from that day, the woman tended both the land and the wounded. And when she died, her children spoke both their names. The tribe listens in silence. The children blink sleepily, missing the meaning entirely. But the adults, especially Siratan and Kor, sit quietly with it, the words echoing like a gentle verdict. There is no punishment in the story, no moral edge, just acceptance. Ralna leans forward, poking the fire with a stick. The moon doesn't care how you love, she murmurs. It only cares that you keep the fire alive. It's a small line, but it feels eternal. Later, as stars fill the sky, the camp drifts toward sleep. Sira lies awake, watching the firelight fade, thinking of the generations yet to come, those who will call this patch of earth home, then leave it behind for others. She wonders if they'll remember the lessons written here in quiet gestures and smoky air, that love can wound and heal in equal measure, that possession and generosity are siblings, that the heart's contradictions are not flaws but maps. Somewhere she imagines future people, strangers, perhaps scientists, unearthing their bones, comparing DNA, debating how they lived. They'll find the evidence shared, children, layered dwellings, handprints in caves, but they'll never quite know how it felt to sit by the fire heart, beating with fear and wonder at once. A quirky fact from modern science would make her smile if she could hear it. Genetic evidence suggests that almost every person alive today descends from a surprisingly small ancestral population, perhaps just a few thousand humans who weathered an ice age together. Which means, in a way, we are all the children of the same ancient campfire. Tankor, Sira, Ralnalera. Their choices are written inside us. And so when love falters, when jealousy stirs, when forgiveness feels impossible, We are only repeating what began here, an experiment in trust that never ended. The fire crackles. The stars wheel slowly overhead. Kor shifts in his sleep. Tarn's arm rests around Syra once more. The night breathes deeply, carrying the smell of smoke, sweat, and something unbroken. Love endures, not perfectly, not cleanly, but persistently, just as the first fire did, passed hand to hand through darkness all the way to now. The days grow warmer again, and the valley hums with insects and renewal. Small shoots push through the blackened soil where the tribe's fires once stood. Life indifferent to drama begins its quiet work. Ralna calls this the world's forgiveness. The people nod not because they understand, but because they feel it. Kor leads a hunting party into the foothills, while Tarn and Syra remain to guard the camp. It is a strange peace between the two men, now something softer, seasoned by time. They've both learned that survival demands cooperation more than pride. Syra, kneeling near the fire, tends to a broken basket. Tarn works beside her, scraping a hide clean. "You still think too much," he says without looking up. "Thinking keeps me from trouble," she answers. He smiles faintly. "No, it just lets you see it coming sooner." Their laughter breaks the tension. It drifts across the camp like a good omen. By midday, the hunters return with game 3 hares and a small antelope. There is celebration, brief and modest, but genuine. The tribe has known hunger long enough to greet abundance as miracle, not routine. Children crowd around shouting, and even Rana joins their noise with a cackle that sounds older than the hills. But as evening falls and the meat roasts over the flames, Ralna grows quiet again. She senses something shifting, not hunger or danger this time, but power. In her long memory, she's seen this pattern before, the way a strong hunter becomes a leader, the way admiration ripens into authority. Kor, without meaning to, has become the center of the tribe, and power, she knows, has a flavor all its own, sweet, intoxicating, and almost always followed by bitterness. Mating games and power plays, they are not inventions of kings or cities. They were born right here by the first fires. Kor sits surrounded by laughter, his voice louder, his gestures confident. He's earned respect, but respect easily mutates into something else, a younger hunter. Ekin jokes Kor speaks, and the gods listen. The others laugh, but Tarn doesn't. He's seen this before too, the slow elevation of one man above the rest. That night when the fire burns low, Ralna calls Syra aside. "Watch him," the old woman warns. Not with fear, but with eyes open. A man who wins every hunt will soon believe he deserves every heart. Syra frowns. He's kind. Ralna nods. Yes, and that is why it will be harder when the time comes to remind him he is not the son. So far, scholars remain divided on whether early human societies were truly egalitarian, or whether quiet hierarchies existed long before cities and thrones. Many anthropologists believe that hunter-gatherer groups practice reverse dominance, a system where community laughter, gossip, or mockery kept any single person from becoming too powerful. It was democracy by embarrassment. Others suggest that charisma and skill naturally bend the rules, creating the first informal leaders, especially during crises when confidence could save lives. In our tribe, both forces tug at once. Kor's confidence lifts spirits, yet it casts a long shadow. Tarn feels it most. Jealousy once twisted his heart around Syra. Now a different jealousy stirs a social one. Kor commands the camp's admiration, even Tarn's. And that admiration frightens him more than rivalry ever did. Meanwhile, Syra notices subtler shifts among the women. Some begin saving the best portions of food for Kor. Others braid small charms to hang near his shelter. None of it is overt. Its instinct proximity to strength feels safe. In the wild, that safety can mean the difference between life and extinction. One evening during another meal, Kor tells a story of a solitary hunter who tamed wolves by sharing his kill. The children lean forward, eyes wide. He finishes with a grin, and that's how the first hunters found companions that would never betray them. Lyra always bold laughs. Never betray, then they weren't people. The camp roars with laughter. Kor bows his head in mock defeat. Ralna chuckles, pleased. Laughter again does its job, the tribe's ancient version of term limits. Still, the truth beneath the humor is sharp. Power and affection, admiration and attraction, they are threads woven from the same fibers. People who lead often inspire love, and those who love often lend their strength to leaders. It is both the secret of humanity's survival and its downfall. Later that night, after the noise fades, Tarn sits beside Sira, gazing at the dim embers. He's different now, Tarn says quietly. Maybe, she replies, or maybe he's only what we've made him. Tarn nods slowly. Then we'd better remember how to unmake him if we have to. That line could fit just as easily in any history book written thousands of years later. Archaeologists have found evidence that status displays, ornaments, decorated weapons, and exclusive burial goods appeared long before agriculture. Some graves contain shells, beads, or polished stone tools buried with particular individuals. Whether those objects marked reverence or rivalry, no one can say. But perhaps it began here in camps like this, when admiration solidified into hierarchy. The next day brings rain, soft but steady. The tribe shelters together beneath stretched hides. Ralna uses the time to tell stories of Balance the hunter who shared his spear, the leader who gave up food for his tribe, the woman who refused both men and became a healer. Her voice fills the space like music wrapping around them all. The fire, she says, does not choose who feeds it. It burns for whoever brings wood. Sira closes her eyes, listening. She realizes the lesson is older than Ralna herself. Power is only holy when it serves warmth, not ownership. That night, as the rain thickens into a whispering curtain, Tarn and Kor sit together, mending a torn net. The silence between them isn't tense anymore, it's understanding. Each knows the other's strength and weakness, and both know they need the other to keep the camp whole. When the rain stops, the moon emerges, a silver coin floating above the soaked plain. The two men stand stretch and share a rare smile. Tomorrow, Kor says, we'll hunt together again. Tomorrow, Tarn agrees. We'll bring something back worth sharing. The moonlight glints off the damp ground, and for once the world looks briefly fair power, balanced by humility, rivalry, softened into respect. Love redefined not as possession, but as endurance. And somewhere beyond the firelight, the wolves Kor spoke of earlier watch from the tall grass, their eyes bright as small stars, companions, waiting to join the story, bound not by dominance, but by trust. Morning arrives calm and pale. The rain has washed the air so clean that every color seems new. The grass glitters and the sky spreads endless blue, as if the world itself has exhaled. The tribe moves slowly, quietly. They are tired, but content. For the first time in many moons, no one feels the weight of unspoken rivalry. There is only the work of living, simple, rhythmic grounding. Sira walks along the riverbank, her feet sinking softly in the mud. She can still see the footprints of last night Kor's larger tarns, steadier pressed side by side. She traces them with her eyes and smiles. It's strange how time softens everything. Even wounds that once burned now feel like faint echoes, gentle reminders of lessons learned. Today feels like a gift, the quiet compromise after the long storm. The tribe spends the morning repairing their huts and washing hides. Ralna oversees everything with her patient half-smile, her old bones creaking. As she sits on a flat rock near the fire, she doesn't speak much anymore. Her eyes do the talking, steady, stay kind, remember the fire. Kor and Tarn work together near the drying racks, side by side, mending the same net they once fought over. It's easier with two, Kor says. Tarn nods. It always was. Their words are simple, but the meaning behind them runs deep. The tension that once defined them has dissolved into mutual understanding, the quiet peace that comes only after two storms have shared the same sky. Around midday, the tribe gathers for a meal of roasted roots and fish. Children chase one another with wild joy, the sound of their laughter bouncing across the river like music. Sira watches them, her heart light. She knows their world is fragile, that tomorrow's sun might bring hunger or danger, but for now, it's enough to see everyone fed, laughing, alive. Evolutionary anthropologists might call this moment social homeostasis, the tribe's instinctive ability to return to balance after conflict. Modern research supports this hunter-gatherer groups rarely allowed long-term feuds. Gossip, humor, and gentle teasing worked as ancient therapy, keeping resentment from poisoning the collective. So far, scholars remain divided on whether this was strategy or empathy. But to the tribe, it doesn't need a name. It's simply what survival looks like. After the meal, Sira joins Ralna by the fire. The old woman crushes dried herbs with a flat stone, releasing their sharp scent into the air. "You seem lighter," Ralna says without looking up. "I am," Sira replies. Ralna smiles faintly. "That's because you finally learned the oldest rule." Sira tilts her head. "Which one?" Ralna glances at her. "That no heart beats alone. Every rhythm joins another, or it fades." Sira nods slowly, the truth of it sinking deep. Maybe that's what love really was before anyone tried to own it. Not possession, not confinement, but rhythm. A shared pulse, a mutual survival. A quirky little finding from modern neuroscience would fit perfectly here when humans speak, sing, or even share quiet eye contact. Their brainwaves often synchronize. Scientists call it interpersonal entrainment. It's measurable proof that our bodies were designed for empathy. Long before words like monogamy, affair, or forgiveness existed, our ancestors' hearts literally beat in sync. By evening, the tribe settles around the fire again. The sunset paints everything in amber and violet, turning the river into a strip of molten light. Kor sharpens a spear. Tarn carves a small flute from a bone. The music that follows is soft and wandering, a melody with no beginning or end. Children hum along. Sira leans back against a tree, eyes half closed, listening. The melody becomes a bridge carrying her mind between memory and peace. She thinks of the jealousy that once divided them, the hunger that almost broke them, the fire that healed them, and she realizes something quietly profound. Love was never meant to be a rule. It was meant to be a compass, a guide that keeps people moving toward warmth even when they lose their way. As the music fades, Ralna's voice rises low and clear. "Remember this, my children. We are made of two hungers, the hunger for safety and the hunger for wonder. If you feed only one, you starve the other, so keep both alive. That is how the tribe endures." Silence follows her words, not of fear, but of reverence. The stars come out one by one, shy at first, then in clusters. The fire pops softly, and a gust of wind lifts a swirl of sparks that vanish into the dark. Sira looks around at the faces illuminated by firelight. Kor's steady and calm, Tarn's weathered but gentle, Ralna's lined and glowing. Each carries its own story, its own ache, yet together they form something larger than love, belonging. Archaeologists often find traces of this same belonging, shared hearths overlapping footprints, clusters of bones buried close together. These are not just artifacts, they are the fossilized remains of human connection. Evidence that even in the harshest times, people found each other. The night deepens. Lara falls asleep mid-laughter, her head resting against a half-finished basket. Tarn sets his flute aside and Kor stirs the coals, sending one last shower of spark upward. Sira leans her head on her knees, smiling faintly. Tomorrow will come with new work, new trials, new desires perhaps. But tonight, balance has been restored. And somewhere in the vast dark sky above them, the moon, ever silent witness to human hearts, shines gently as if proud of what it sees. The season turns. The rains pull back into the clouds, and the air smells of sun-warmed stone and grass. Every sound whined through reeds a child's laugh. The thud of pestles on roots feels sharper closer. The tribe has settled near the river's bend, where the soil is soft, and the trees give both fruit and shade. It is not home, not yet, but it could be. Days unfold in simple harmony. Kor leads short hunts. Tarn tends new traps by the water. Sira teaches the children how to weave ropes tight enough to hold against storms. Even Ralna Slower now keeps watch from her usual stone, her hands busy with herbs, though her eyes wander farther than the horizon. They have become something rare in this wild world, a steady people. But the calm brings reflection. Every night as the fire glows low, Sira thinks about the path that led them here, the longing, the hurt, the strange mercy that followed. How easily love turns to war, and how quietly war can turn back to love. Perhaps she thinks peace is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to live beside it. Modern researchers might call this adaptability, social plasticity, the human ability to shift roles, forgive and rebuild. It's what allowed small groups like theirs to outlast harsher, stronger creatures. So far, scholars remain divided on whether this resilience arose from intelligence or empathy. But the bones and hearths left behind suggest it was both. As twilight deepens, Ralna speaks softly to the group. The world doesn't give forever, she says. When we move again, some will go one way, some another. That's the way of rivers and people. But the fire goes with you if you remember how to share it. Her words settle over them like dust, quite permanent. The next morning, the first light spills across the camp. The tribe begins to pack hides, rolled baskets, bound embers tucked into clay bowls. They will travel east now toward greener plains. Sira helps Lara tie bundles, laughing when the younger woman complains about weight. Tarn secures spears. Kor tests the rope bridges across the stream. It feels less like leaving than beginning again. When everything is ready, Ralna lifts the bowl of embers. Who carries the fire, she asks. I will, Sira says. The old woman nods. Then remember, fire isn't owned. It's borrowed. They move as one down the slope, their silhouettes long and fluid against the morning sun. Behind them, the empty camp smoulders, gently releasing a final breath of smoke that twirls upward into the bright sky. Far away in another time, another age, scientists will dig here and find traces, a ring of stones, scattered shells, ash mixed with ochre. They will argue about meanings, love, or ritual cooperation, or chaos, and write papers full of cautious phrases. None of them will ever feel the warmth of this walk, the hush of footsteps through grass, the tiny spark inside each heart that believes in tomorrow. That spark is the real inheritance. As the day lengthens, the tribe finds rhythm in movement again. Kor walks ahead, scanning the path. Tarn carries a child who has grown tired. Lara hums a song that might become legend someday. Sira walks in the middle, her basket swinging lightly, Ralna's embers glowing at her hip. When they stop to rest, she kneels by a stream and checks the bowl. The coals still breathe soft red alive. She smiles. That is enough proof that they are still human. The sun drifts low, washing the valley in amber light. The tribe's shadows stretch long behind them, merging into one. The air is warm, almost tender, the kind of warmth that makes the heart slow and the mind quiet. Somewhere an owl calls from the woods, a soft reminder that the day's work is done. Sira sits beside the fire they've built from Ralna's embers. The flame flickers steady but small, its reflection dancing in her eyes. She breathes slowly, letting the quiet seep into her bones. The men's voices fade. The children have already drifted into dreams. She thinks of the river they left, of the smoke that still rises behind them, of all the footprints now erased by wind. And she understands that this is how the world keeps its balance, by forgetting just enough to let new stories begin. The night wraps around the camp like a warm blanket. In the dark, Kor hums a low tune. Tan adds a few soft notes from his flute. The sound weaves through the air like a heartbeat, shared by everyone. Even Ralna's gentle breathing joins the rhythm, steady as the earth itself. The flame bends, sways, but does not go out. It never does. It travels in memory, in stories, in the simple human promise to keep each other warm. If you're listening now, somewhere far away, close your eyes. Imagine that faint glow, the same one our ancestors carried through storms, through jealousy, through love, through loss. Feel its pulse inside your chest. It's the proof that you belong, that you've always belonged to the same unbroken fire. The stars gather above like silent witnesses, eternal and kind. The wind softens, the world exhales, and the fire, your fire, keeps burning quietly in the dark.